Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to teach you how to cure salmon eggs. Went out salmon fishing today, didn't bring the camera. I almost did, but I didn't have a lot of confidence. Ended up hooking into 3 fish. Landed one of them. There was a nice big hen, which means the female has eggs in it. Show a picture of that right here. And so I had eggs, and so we're going to teach you how to cure up these eggs. I'm only going to do 1 skein, so when you catch them they come in with 2 skeins of eggs, and I'm only going to do 1. So what you're going to need is, of course, you're going to need your eggs out of your fish, your fresh eggs. Some kind of cure. In this case I'm using a liquid cure. This is Pro Cure liquid cure. This is a really easy way to cure your eggs. And you're going to need some kind of container to put those eggs in. This is like a big peanut butter jar container. Just something that's big enough to fit the eggs into for the curing process. Some scissors, and then of course a nice clean surface, somewhere where you're not going to get in trouble if you get egg juice all over. Alright, so you can also wear gloves if you want to do this, rubber gloves, but personally I just think it's more of a hassle. It's just easier for me when I just use my bare hands. So here's the eggs. You're going to get them right out of your fish. It's a nice big king. This is probably about a 25-pound Chinook salmon, or king salmon. So it's nice, big, juicy eggs. And you kind of see on both sides, it's got this nice, smooth little slick texture, right? And then you're going to have one spot where it's open to the actual eggs, right? There's not that smooth stuff on there. So what you're going to do is take your scissors right in that open spot and just kind of start to snip, not actually snipping the eggs. You don't want to necessarily snip the actual eggs, but you kind of start snipping. Your scissors will kind of fall in between the eggs. And what this is called butterflying your eggs. What it's doing is it's opening up the egg sac. So when you do this, you want to just do little bits at a time. You don't want to go too deep. And what it's doing is it's essentially your eggs are like this, and it's opening up your eggs. And so that way the cure can penetrate and get to all the eggs. So something like that. You don't want to cut all the way through to the other side. So see, it's still one piece, but it's just opened up. And you don't necessarily have to do this. Some people don't do this, but I just personally, I believe that it gets cured better. The cure gets down in the eggs better. So then I'm going to take this and I'm going to cut this up into chunks. And I like to cut mine into pretty big chunks, a little bigger than the biggest bait you're going to be using. So right there for me, that's the biggest bait I would ever use right there. That's the biggest piece that I would ever go to, and that's like high dirty water. For me, some people fish bigger, some people fish, like to fish smaller, but I cut them into decent sized chunks. If you cut them too small and you get out on the river and the fish end up wanting a bigger bait, you kind of screwed yourself. So I always cut them bigger, and then you can cut them smaller when you're out on the river. But you're just going to want to cut this up into little chunks. And I'm putting this in my jar here. Cutting it up, dropping them into my jar. And so like I said, I'm only doing one side of the egg. So normally you have 2 of those big strips. The other one's in here. I'm going to save that, and I'm going to do that later. In a different color cure. This cure here is hot pink. So I'm going to be doing the other one in a different color. But a lot of people like to get this blood out. There's a lot of blood that's in the eggs. A lot of people sit here and pick that out, kind of get it out, but usually I don't really care. So there we go. I put that in there. And now what you're going to do is take your cure, and depending on what cure you've got, like I said, this liquid cure, that's what we're going to be using today. All that stuff will settle down to the bottom, so you got to shake it up. Make sure to mix it up really good. Take the lid off, and you're just going to pour. And I usually put about as much as it takes for your eggs to float. When your eggs start to float up, so not quite yet. Alright, they're floating up a little bit. Just kind of get them floating up off the bottom. There we go. So see, now they're kind of floating up. So maybe something like that, maybe a little more. There you go. Just your eggs are floating in there. But now your eggs are covered. They're covered up pretty good. They're floating in that cure. And there we go. Now I'm going to put the lid on this. Alright, so I got my lid. I'm going to put my lid on. Make sure you screw it on nice and tight. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this in the refrigerator. Make sure the bottom is nice and clear. And I like to keep this jar, keep this jar nice and clean. So I can set it in my fridge without getting yelled at. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that in the fridge just like that for about 4 hours. After 4 hours goes up, I set a timer on my phone or on your watch or whatever. I'm going to take this and I'm going to flip it over. Just like so. And then what that does is when it sits there, you can already see the whatever they put in there, all the cure gets all, bunched up on the bottom. So when you flip it, it just mixes it up, gets that cure to run through the eggs and to cure all the eggs. So I'm going to do that, set it in there for 4 hours, flip it, set it in there for 4 hours, and then it's really your choice depending on how strong you want these eggs. For salmon, if I was going to use these salmon fishing, I'd go 8 to 12 hours. And at that point, I'm either going to air dry them, so set them out and have a little fan blowing on them, let them air dry for 2 or 3 hours, and they really get tacky, get nice and firm, and then they're ready to be used for bait. So that's how I cure my eggs right there. One of the simplest ways than these little pro cure, the wet cures, or is now what it's called, the liquid cure. And it's really simple, really easy to do. It doesn't make a huge mess, and one of my favorite ways to do it. So thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next video.